We are live. I'm excited to have you here, Subi and Fobete. I don't know whether we can give it a wait of a minute or two to have someone or some people join us, or they will be able to just listen to what's after the taping. Okay? I'll give it maybe 1 minute and then we'll begin.
Thanks for organizing this as well and having us on this platform.
It is my pleasure. I had a chat with Fobete, and when I was organizing this video chat, and we thought Subi would be an amazing addition to have during this conversation. So I am honored to have both of you because not only do I know you, but you've been some familiar faces, not only on social media, but also in the immigration sector, but at the same time, in the MRD program, which actually I was part of with you guys. So this feels like a reunion, and I am excited to have you here with me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. It's an honor. It's a pleasure.
Yes. So as you all know about the migrant stories, so we won't go through deep about it. Today's topic is a little bit interesting because Subi came as an international student, while Fobete, you came to Canada as a PR, a permanent resident. So I'm not going to give a full introduction, but I want you guys to tell us about yourselves, where you come from, like your countries of origin, and what made you choose Canada for your studies. So, Subi, do you want to be the first to go?
Sure. My name is Subi Azim, and I am from the northwest part of China, which is an ethnic minority region. So I am ethnically Turkic, but I was born in China, and I get a lot of questions about that. I came to Canada in 2012 to study at the Rural Development Department of Brandon University for the master's degree. The reason I chose this is because I always wanted to be part of the community. I was really a community-driven person since the beginning, I would say. I wanted to do social studies at first, social work. However, my path didn't cross with that. But rural development in my head was like, because it's very much about the community development, very much inclined to that direction. So I chose it. I got admission. I got in, and I started studying. And I'm very happy with what I have experienced so far with the studies and Brandon University, all of that.
Okay. We are glad to have you. How about you, Fobete?
Thank you so much, Immaculate, for this wonderful opportunity to come live on your show to talk about my experiences in Canada. Just like Subi, I'm a graduate of the Rural Development Program at Brandon University. I moved from Germany to Canada. Then I had the passion. I just realized when I came to Canada some 13 years ago, the society depends so much on community. A stronger community, a stronger society, and a stronger economy, and a stronger country. So I had that urge and I had that desire, to really move in the community, and more so Canada being an immigrant society. How do I penetrate my own community to tell them about, some of the resources, some of the things that one can tap into and succeed in Canada as a newcomer. So that urge really pushed me to go into rural development. And I left rural development and I came back to Calgary, where I'm working.
So amazing. But now the question is, how did you come to choose Brandon University? And as you know, Brandon is in a small town. It's not Winnipeg, it's not Montreal, it's not Toronto. So how did you come to choose Brandon of all places in Canada?
So you realize when I was in Calgary, I tried to apply to the University of Calgary and to Mount Royal. It was so difficult, you know, a lot of it was so difficult. Then I was now going online searching for schools. Then I fell on Brandon University and the Rural Development Program, which was really interesting. So
Mhm.
I decided to submit an application for that particular program. And behold, I got their mission. I first got their mission. I deferred their mission. I said I wouldn't come now. So I was just trying to see if truly they will give me an admission again the second time. And they gave me the admission. I decided, it's time to relocate to Brandon. And Brandon was a small town. I went online, did a study. It was really small as compared to Calgary. And it was a small town, which was good for study. So I decided to move to Brandon. Thank you.
How about you, Subi?
For me, just realistically speaking, coming from a different country, the tuition is a big factor, right? It's very much, especially coming from different country. There's some cities are very expensive. Some universities would charge a lot. So for me, the finance was kind of a big factor too. But I did a lot of research, actually, not only just Canada, United States, Australia, UK, Germany, all of the place in the world. This Durand University was like the most affordable university at the time, but luckily I ended up getting scholarship, so I didn't pay for the tuition. So I'm really grateful for that. And also, another thing is that I lived in big cities before, and I was really, really like felt congested. I wanted to be in some smaller place, and like Fobete said, it's a small university, but like uh, you have you have the opportunity to in the classroom and speak to your professor and be really interactive with one another. So
Mhm.
that's one thing too. That kind of drew me to Brandon, and Brandon being small, that kind of like I didn't want to be in a big place and a big ball and then just disappear. I wanted to be in a smaller community and have more opportunity to interact with another. So because in my head, community is a small concept, and from smaller units, it develops into bigger units. So starting from a smaller place is in my head was logical.
Okay, so on coming to Brandon University, um, you got enrolled, you came to Brandon University. So how was your experience in the first year?
I wouldn't lie, I was really stressed out in the beginning because I had difficulty with language, even though I thought I had enough language base, but because I didn't go to school in English language before, I was kind of stressed out on that. And also another aspect was social aspect. So I didn't know many people, didn't have friends, felt lonely, depression, all the things that you go through as a new immigrant. Um,
Mhm.
but but what I was really grateful for was like the professors, Professor Besant, Dr. Ramsey. They're just so amazing people, and I think I had a lot of good support, and overall, I had a really good first year.
Mhm.
By
Oh, that's good to hear. Were you living in residence, you say, or were you living off campus?
off campus.
How about you, for Betty?
I was living off campus.
And because now for better, your case is slightly different. You moved as a permanent resident. Did you move here with your family, or you came alone and your family joined you at a later?
I, I moved alone, and my family had to join me on a later day.
Okay. So how was your experience in the first year or two before your family joined you, or even after your family joined you?
Well, it was very challenging, to be honest with you. My family is somewhere else. I'm somewhere else. It was really challenging. I had a tough, the rough first year. Then when my family relocated, it was really good. We had to plan together. It was really really good.
Mm.
Mhm.
Now, as I recall, being a someone from a different culture, different country, different everything, was there any element of culture shock for you guys?
Yes, you know, though there was big time. I lived in Europe for a while before moving to Canada. And at the back of my mind, I believe I knew that the same European culture was in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
But when I came, I was totally taken aback. I lived in Germany, and Germans are very conserved. They don't talk to people, more especially to black.
Mm-hmm.
Everything black is bad in Germany. I'll be very honest with you. Everything black, they call it bad. It is bad. Anything black is bad. So, but when I relocated to Canada, I was amazed. You know, walking on the street, a Caucasian said, "Hi, how are you doing?" I was like, this society is strange. It's weird because I never experienced that in Germany. You know, so I felt as being home. I felt as belong to society as compared to Europe. Then another issue was the weather. I've experienced winter, but the European winter is not the same as the Canadian winter. To be honest with you, I've never experienced cold in my life ever since I came to Canada. It was so brutal. The cold was really brutal. And the Canadians, they're welcoming, open, and more so when I relocated to Brandon, I get to know the First Nations, the original people. They are very, very interesting. I was shocked when, you know, they would say the white man. So I was like, you're saying the white man, are you not white? They said, no, I'm not white. I was really shocked when I heard that. I was totally amazed. But I come to realize they are very nice. Uh, we have our cultures are kind of are similar, so they understand some basics as far as some norms are concerned, which I had to learn a lot from them as well. Know their culture, I know where they came from, I know the whole history.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of things that I was pretty much shocked when I came to Canada as compared to back in Germany, understanding German society and moving to Canada. It was totally a shock.
Before I go to Subi to tell me about the culture shock, I want actually to touch. I don't know whether this means something, but you touched on something which has made me think. When you said Canadians are welcoming, what did you do welcoming in like this? Is there something to it, or there isn't? Am I reading too much into the airports or not?
You know, you know, yeah, I know why I said to welcome me.
Mm.
There's a lot of talk about integration and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two different concepts. I can be integrated in the society, but I cannot be included in the society. So you can welcome me to your house, but I cannot be part of it. Let me not say part of your house. You can welcome me to your house, but cannot be, let me say, part of your house.
Okay.
Yeah. There are society where you welcome somebody, you build that relationship with that person. That person becomes part of you. You share common things together. And that is how society is supposed to be. If we want to integrate, we should be also ready to include, right? So those are the two different concepts. And in Canada, we have to practice inclusion, not only integration, inclusion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now I'm going to reverse back to Subi about the culture shock, because you really nodded your head really hard. Like, yeah, there was culture shock. So we want to know more about your culture shock.
No, I was like, especially when Fobete was saying, like, you walk on the street, people would say, hi, how are you today? I was really shocked at first, like, I don't know this person. Why was he talking to me, But then later, it was just kind of like a gesture thing. And it's especially more pronounced in rural, smaller towns as opposed to bigger cities. And then I started like, oh, okay, that's the difference. I wasn't too shocked by the weather because I am from a very wintry place, so I was okay with that. But what shocked me the most was how lonely Canadians are. So, how individualistic everybody just lives with themselves. You have a problem, you deal with it yourself. There is no family support, you know. There is not much big concept of a family unit, I find, in the Canadian culture. That was the first thing because back home we have you meet your all of your extended family members once a week at least. You have a big family dinner. That creates kind of a social interaction, and I think that it could be also why there are so many mental health problems that we see in the smaller communities of Canada because it's so isolated and individualistic. And I was also kind of shocked that there's so many social programs available for different groups of people. However, there is not much emphasis on the importance of family units. So that was kind of impression on me. And also, I am from I was from a conservative background, and then I came here, and then people are very much open to different ideas, different things. That was a shock for me, of course, at first, but of course, I got used to it now.
Oh, that's good to hear. Um, have you guys had the chance to go back to your countries, to visit families since you moved to Canada? I know you both moved to Canada in different years, that's for sure. But how long did it take you to go back to visit your families, and how was it actually going back to visit your families?
I went back the first year, after the first year, and that didn't feel much different. I just felt like the streets are really crowded as opposed to how it is in in Canada. It's, we have so much freedom and space. But then I went back again in 2015, and but that was for my sister's wedding, and I was just so happy to be with my family and just being with all the extended family members. That felt so refreshing for me because living here all by yourself alone and going back to like a pack place that you belong, that was really nice for me. But of course, I know that that's just life that I have back home, and my life is in Canada now, so I came back.
Now that is strange. So your life, you feel like your life now is in Canada. Do you ever feel like you would ever go back home?
No.
No? Oh, okay. We'll touch on that one. Yeah. How about you, Fobete?
Well, ever since I moved to Canada some 13 years ago, I've been back home twice.
Mhm.
And yeah, there have been some, big differences, right? First of all, the climate. When I landed in Cameroon, I left here, I think it was January. I landed in Douala, Cameroon. It was really hot. I could not take, you know, the, the climate change really affected me a lot. Although it was good, right? But it was really hot, and everything to me was so well organized. Coming from a society that is so organized, so structured, then you go back to a society that is not well structured. Then I realized that to operate in that society is going to be difficult. And one thing I started believing is that only those in that society can really operate in that society because they know the in and out of that society. But the reality is that they lack knowledge. And when I mean knowledge, they lack in basic information that can create empowerment. They don't know about that. While most of us in the diaspora, we know those information. But how do we inject that information in our own society to bring about development is a problem. And the issue is the government willing to accept change from those who are in the diaspora? That is another problem which I realize. You know, most governments don't really want to accept change from those in the diaspora. If you come with a new idea, instead for government to encourage small business or to encourage you with that idea, they'll put a lot of taxes on you, and the overall goal is just to crumble that business. In the diaspora, in the Western society, government subsidize smaller enterprises, smaller businesses. But in Africa, government tax levy heavy taxes on smaller businesses. How do you expect them to make profit or to grow is difficult.
That is very unfortunate and a little bit political. Now, if we go into talking about taxing, bigger corporations and small businesses, but now going back, actually, I remember my first time when also I went back home. Everything seemed actually different. Not only the weather, it took me a long time to get to the Ugandan heat. And at the same time, the economy was different. Actually, knowing now, even I couldn't understand the currency, how it was operating, how much, because there was a time when I wanted to buy something and they were telling me it's this much and I was pulling out this amount, and my sisters is like, okay, give me that, I'll take care of the money situation here, because you know nothing what is going on. Actually, which is very strange. Now I know more about Canadian living more than Ugandan living. I feel like now an outsider. So I'm like actually like Subi or you guys. Yeah, after living here for a while. But now coming back to Canada, Subi, earlier on you talked about, being an international student. But before that, we had a message from Weldat. He's like, good job, guys. Thank you so much, Weldat. We thank you for supporting us and being with us here live, joining us today. But now we are going to backtrack a little bit. This has been on my mind for a while. After you mentioned you chose Brandon because of the tuition, we want now to touch about that, because I know international students don't pay the same rate as Canadian students or permanent residents. So Fobete, you might have gotten an opportunity to pay a lesser rate compared to Subi while in university. Now, some international students are lucky because their parents end up paying for tuition throughout their terms. I know you said you got a scholarship. Was it for both terms? And if not, how did you actually cope throughout throughout your years in Brandon?
I got a scholarship for the first year of tuition, so I didn't worry about that. And the reason for me, the tuition was like a big factor was because I'm from just a regular family. My parents, just middle income people, and I don't want my parents to go bankrupt just to send me to school and overseas. And it's not fair for them. They have worked their all way to raise us,
Okay.
But my mom did help me for the first year. She did put like certain amount of money. Like if you are familiar with this immigration visa stream, there is something called GIC fund. So you deposit about $10,000 to your bank account, and then you can only withdraw a certain amount every month for the first year. So that's what I did. And after that, I started working part-time at Westman Immigrant Services, doing language interpretation and doing a conversation group volunteering and all that. So, and then also worked in the restaurants, just to supplement my income. And I never, and also got a few more scholarships. And I never asked money from my parents ever, like, except for the first year. And I'm kind of proud of that because I want to be able to, because this is my decision to come to Canada to study. So I want to honor my own decision, be responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it went.
So now, as an international student, I know you are allowed to work a specific amount of hours during the term. And I feel, I don't know whether Fobete, your case was different. You weren't limited as in how many hours to work, were you?
No, I had the opportunity to work 24/7, 360 days.
Okay.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, us
So,
international students, we could only work 20 hours per week during school years, school semesters, except for scheduled holidays. During scheduled holidays like winter or summer break, then you can work as many hours as you want.
So, did you feel any restraint as an international student, or maybe anxiety with tuition? You know, you're not working so many hours, you have to pay tuition and stuff like that, you have to pay bills.
No. Well, I
No?
mean, you mentioned earlier that international students pay like more than domestic students, which is true on undergrad level. However, because we were graduate students, we paid
Mm-hmm.
the same amount as the domestic Canadian students.
yeah.
Well,
It's
that's
it's different now. I think it's a bit they still pay now they pay double, but at the time we only paid the same as everybody else. So it wasn't a big stretch for me. No.
okay. That was very fortunate. I'm glad you were, pursuing your education during that time then.
Yeah.
So now moving on to, so you did your program for 2 years, I believe, both of you.
It took me 4 years.
It took me 4 years. I was just, taking my time.
Me
Okay.
too.
So I had finished my program a long time. So it was just for the master's, the thesis. So I took my time. Since they
Same.
said, well, you have 2 years. So I said, well, let me make use of it 2 years.
Okay.
I took 2 years to finish.
Yeah, I took the longest time for thesis too.
So upon graduation, so what was I know for Fobete, because you came as a peer, it was easy for you to transition into becoming a citizen. But now, before we touch about becoming Canadians or what stage you are in life, was it easy for you, given that now you have a Canadian education, you've been involved in so many different things, you've been working here and there, you have that Canadian experience. Was it easy for you finding jobs in Canada
So
professionally?
so let me explain the path to success, because one thing we have to understand is irrespective of your status, if you don't have that experience and that education, it becomes difficult. When I
Mm-hmm.
moved to Brandon University, I during the summer vacation, I used to work with MAFRI, Manitoba Agriculture Food and Rural Initiative. I used
Okay.
to work with Manitoba government. My summers, I used to work there. So I had gained that experience in the rural sector and working with various communities towards resiliency, towards bringing about community development, right? Then before coming to Brandon, I had worked with Alberta Community and Cooperative Association in Edmonton. So I worked there for a while. Then I had to go back to school. So I had some experience. I used to work with Brandon Youth for Christ as a youth worker. Then I did a couple of volunteer positions or jobs to gain that experience to make my resume to be rich.
Mm-hmm.
Then once I was done school, I had to move. I worked in Brandon for a couple of months, as a youth worker. Then and also a case worker. I managed a group home. Then I relocated to Calgary. While in Calgary, I used to work as a youth and a youth council and also support work. Then I started volunteering, engaging myself with whenever there is a workshop or there's a conference, I attended those conferences, asked pertinent questions, so it attracts the mind of people, right? Then I now started applying for work. I used to volunteer with one organization. From there, I became the executive assistant to the director. Then I now left. I became a community development officer there. I was doing research with the community, a lot of things that the city of Calgary was trying to do in a particular community to bring about resiliency and development. So I was doing a lot of research there. Then, I built that resume, I built that social network, that contact. Then it became very easy when I applied to work with the newcomers. It was very easy with my resume, with my rich resume, with the social network I had built. So it became so easy for me to get a job. I went for the interview interview was very perfect, no concern. And I was called the next day that, the job is yours.
Okay.
So one has to understand that it doesn't matter if you're a Canadian or a PR international student. If you have that good resume, if you have that job experience, right, you will easily get a job. There are so many Canadians or PRs who graduate without a work experience. It becomes a challenge for them to get a job. And also, if you don't build that social network, I realize in the Kenyan society it depends so much on network. If you have a good network, that network will help you to get a job.
I agree with you very much on this point. Coming from a student and having restricted hours of work, so what I did was I volunteered a lot, and I volunteered with a few on occasions with you, Immaculate. I was a long-term volunteer at a lot of like nonprofit organizations, especially. That helped me to build a network in the community. So when I graduated, when I applied for jobs, people will be like, "Hey, I know you. I have seen you work. I can recommend you to this place, or I can give you a good reference." So when I applied for jobs, it wasn't difficult for me. I hear from especially now students working in immigration, they just really struggle with jobs. But I always say you have to volunteer. You have to know the community, how the interconnection works with one another. That really helps when you get the job. So it wasn't difficult, like Fobete said, like being able to build up that resume, build up that connection. That was the most key.
Okay. So now, presently, when I want to talk about transitioning now from international student to maybe into immigration, because when you came to Canada, you knew you're not going to go back. How is the process? How is the process like? To say now, I want to become maybe a Canadian or a permanent resident. What did you do? How is the process like?
Usually, so after you graduate and you apply, you can get a work permit as a student.
Okay.
And then that kind of gives you time to build up a work experience and apply through provincial nominees or federal programs. I applied with federal programs at the time. So that's basically the case. And what I am seeing right now, the Canadian government has been putting really a lot of emphasis on international graduates, because there are the people who have education from the Canadian institutions and they have experience in Canada. So they would like to promote this group of people, especially for permanent residency. There's a lot of streams and new programs are opening up. So that's basically the process. So you come study first, then you build up some work experience, and then you apply through one of the programs. Still the same.
Okay. How about you, Fobete? I know you had to transition from being a PR to a citizen. Was the process easy for you to,
Well, yeah, it was okay. It was not so much a challenge because I just had to follow the process and the procedure, because I had to be in Canada for, I think, about 1,000 days. Then after that, I need to apply for citizenship, then take the exams, which was okay. And with exams, we needed just 75%. 20 questions, just 15. So I took the exams. I was successful. And after the exams, I had an interview in Winnipeg. So we just kind of discussed. And then I went back to Brandon. Then I was forwarded a letter to come for the swearing in, and it was way easier for me.
Wait, you did the exam and an interview?
Well, what happens is that after you write the exams, they call you in for just a chat, right? Just to get your language level, because everybody who sits for that exam must have at least TLB 6 or 7 things.
Four.
Four, right? Okay, four. I was a bit, yeah, four. That's why you must be able to speak English. That's why you see that a lot of people who can write go in for citizenship exam because their language is a barrier.
I
So,
guess things have changed though.
well, maybe Subi can tell us more about that. But you
Yeah.
know, when I went for the exams in Winnipeg, after the exams, they called me in. So we were discussing. When did you come? There was a time frame you didn't work. What happened? I told them when they had a recession in 2008, I was laid off, so I didn't work. So that was the reason, happened. Then they were like, "What are your plans? What are you doing now?" I told them I'm going to school at Brother University, and they were like, stay in Winnipeg, stay in Manitoba, don't go anywhere, because I came through the Quebec system, the Quebec immigration. But
Mm-hmm.
I could speak French. It was way easier when I was in Germany. So I came to Canada through Quebec, but I've never lived in Quebec. So they were like, you know what, don't go to Quebec, please stay in Winnipeg. Little didn't know that I will as well move from Winnipeg to Calgary. So they were like, stay in Winnipeg, don't leave, it's a nice place, blah, blah, But yeah, that was just that discussion we had with the immigration officer. And after that, he told me, let me go to send me a letter for me to, swear in and take my
Oh,
citizenship. Hmm.
congratulations.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
I'm taking Subi, you're still a permanent resident or you're a citizen now?
Oh, I applied for my citizenship last year, and should have been gotten my citizenship this year already. But with COVID, it's been really, really stretched, and just still waiting.
Okay.
Waiting. I like Fobete says, like every person who applied for citizenship, your skills, and you have to have you pass the knowledge test to know how to discover Canada, basic knowledge about Canada, and then interview. So talk about your background, how did you come, and all that. So that's what I'm waiting on.
Okay. The funny thing is like I've actually a little bit of your journey. And I know now you work as a immigration consultant. And for Bete, you work with newcomers, I believe. So how did you end up
That's
where
right.
you are? You both actually did a master's in rural development, but you end up, working with newcomers. And can you tell us more about your work and what you do?
You go first, Fobete.
Okay, so you realize that rural development is basically community development.
Of course. I
Mm.
think
Most of the
yeah,
theories and everything emphasizes on community development, and
yeah.
a sustainable community is a community that believes so much in empowerment and resiliency. So how did I find myself at the Center for Newcomers?
Mm-hmm.
I have that urge to work and to serve my community.
Okay.
And like I said at the beginning of this discussion, that uh, I realized Canada is an immigration society which involves so many communities. So how can I penetrate my own community? You know, so that is why you see I left rural development having a knowledge of community development, then finding myself in the immigration sector to help my own community. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, at the Center for Newcomers, I'm a cultural outreach person. So I talk to my communities about the various resources that they can use to enable them or to enhance their settlement process. So that is how you see I found myself at working at the Center for Newcomers, which I love it so much.
I sorry, yeah. Like Fobete says, rural development is such a broad concept. It could be any type of development. And my master's thesis was mainly about homelessness and a lot about homelessness reduction. And that mainly, at the end of the day, comes down to funds, if there's any funds to support those programs. And if you look at Brandon, lots of employment and labor sector is driven by immigrants. And when I also, because during this, when I was studying, I volunteered a long time at Western Human Services, and me coming as an immigrant, my own background, so kind of drives you to that direction, saying that, okay, how about this? So it's so interesting, and you got to like more. And I ended up working for this one lady who was an immigration consultant. I worked for her for almost 2 years. And after that, I thought, okay, this is such a interesting field. And plus, I have a background in bachelor's in law. So I wanted to dig a bit deeper into this. And so that's what I did. I set up my own company. And after I got my license in 2019, and that's what I do now. I do immigration advice and representation for people inside or outside Canada.
Was it easy for you to set up your own, business as an immigrant?
Yeah, well, I mean, business setup has to be after you become a permanent resident, right? So I became permanent resident in 2018, and I started taking the course to get my license, and the license took about a year to come through. So I was licensed in 2019 February, and the business was open, like operated, starting from May 2019. So it was. I was a bit confused with the business registration process, but I did figure out in the end after making some mistakes.
Okay, now let's talk about support. Fobete, you work with newcomers, and Subi, encouraging more people to come and study or immigrate to Canada. Now let's talk about the supports which are there for other people who are coming to Canada, or the resources Fobete you're letting people know they can actually utilize. Is there a lot of support for newcomers in Canada to feel not only welcome, but to feel like they'll be able to navigate the new communities they're in? And for Subi, when you're encouraging with your job, do you identify those resources for people when they come to Canada? Do you support them still when they get to Canada in your role as a consultant?
So, the fact is that there are resources in Canada for every newcomer, any immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
The government has laid out resources, and the government works with organizations. For instance, where I work at the Center for Newcomers, we are being funded by the federal government. That is IRCC. So, when newcomers, the reality is that most newcomers don't access these resources, right? So that is the greatest challenge. The belief in word of mouth, and at times most of this word of mouth give them the wrong information. So at the Center for Newcomers, let me just explain one of the things we do at the Center for Newcomers. There's what we call PM mentorship program. So let's say Subi comes from China. She has a degree in, or she's an economist or a banker. So what this program does is they will get a banker in Canada or in Calgary who is a Chinese, who speaks her language. So it's going to pair up with that same person. It's going to be her mentor. It's going to mentor her, tell her how to navigate the banking system. And just giving her a complimentary card can open her door. We do that, and that program has been successful. A lot of newcomers who come in a particular field, we merge them together with professionals who are working in Canada. However, they are regulated fields. For instance, medicine, being a lawyer, a pharmacist, you have to go through the process. Being an engineer, you have to go through the regulated process because they have strict rules and regulations. Resources are available, but newcomers really don't access some of these resources, and it's becoming a major concern. I believe it is high time we start to access these resources because government has disbursed money out for these organizations to help people. Newcomers, it is high time they have to open their doors. Let these organizations come in, preach to them the gospel of resources, the gospel of testament in Canada, in Calgary as a newcomer. There are a lot of resources. There are a lot of seminars that if they do attend, they will understand what it means to settle. At the Center for Newcomers, we have resume building. Most people don't get a job because the way their resume is being structured. When I relocated to Calgary, I learned something about interview techniques. The reality is that most people fail an interview because of some techniques. You can sit in an interview, the interviewer looks at you, the way you start is not The way you respond is not correct. Your, your yeah, the way you respond is not correct. So it affects a lot as decision making is concerned. We teach new immigrants how to prepare for an interview, some of the techniques, how to respond, how to dress, how to prepare yourself, your composure, the way you talk. Language matters a lot. You know, some people go for an interview, they start talking and they're flipping your hands this way, you know, you fail. You have to be very gentle. Thank you.
No, it's interesting. Like you said, like I do have people from countries, especially the Middle Eastern countries, that really like to like very expressive in their hand gesture, and then like I tone down a bit because you got to be a bit reserved during the concert. Like I do the legal work part, immigration consulting, the work part, but then I of course I end up doing the settlement part, like you, the one that you asked, Immaculate, because I do have clients. Okay, okay, now I'm this process. Now I want to buy a house. Who do I contact? And I would, because of my own knowledge of who would be the better person to give a lower rate of mortgage to immigrants, because not all the banks give a lower rate of mortgage to banks, to immigrants, if you don't have the permanent resident status. And that's something that a lot of people struggle. So, and then I could hook them with the right work people. And it's like, hey, I can't find a job. It's like, hey, go to this site and look for this and this. It's not supposed to be part of my work frame according to my work contract, but I end up doing it because it's, you know, people have needs, right? You get here and you have to settle, you have to work, you have to live, you have to know where you are. So it becomes like a whole process of kind of like integrating into society slowly, step at a time. So I do that, yeah.
It's amazing the journey you both took end up where you are, and I believe you mentioned our professors from Brandon University. You talked about Dr. Ramsey and Besant. I bet if they ever get to see this video, they will be very proud of what you both have become. Now, I just want to probably touch on, or maybe ask you, what kind of advice would you give to, recent not international students in Canada, or maybe newcomers in Canada who have come in different classes? What advice would you give them in order to navigate the new their new communities they've moved into, and how can they actually succeed in this new country now they're going to be calling home?
Okay, and yeah, Fobete, you go ahead. You probably have more expertise.
So the first thing is that as an international student, you have to know that you will never go back if you want to stay in Canada. Why do I say so? We had when I used to work for Ethnocultural Council of Calgary, we had a meeting with the Minister of Immigration, the then Minister of Immigration, I think Minister Hassan, from Ethiopia, who came as a refugee to Canada. And he said it would not make sense for Canada to bring an international student to pay thousands and thousands of dollars and at the end send them back home. That's why we give them work permit to work, in being integrated in the society, and make Canada their home. So as an international student, once you study and you have your degree, rest assured that the government will give you a permit to work and to make Canada home. Secondly, to succeed in Canada, you have to build a network. Network pays a lot. Attend most conferences or workshops on areas that is your interest. Attend those conferences. Challenge the panel with some very interesting, intriguing questions. Volunteer in some of these organizations. I mean, at organizations, I've seen people who have volunteered, and at the end, they give them a job. Volunteer pays in the future. It pays a lot in the future. So I encourage them to get into that area, get a network, build a social network that can help.
Okay. Thank you for that.
One thing I would say is that people have to change their mindset first. You're coming to this another country, to Canada, for a reason. You wanted a better life, you wanted more freedom, you wanted opportunities. Everything is in front of you if you're open to get it. You see? So people have this mindset, I came from, for example, China, from India, but I only socialize with my own community. No, you're not never gonna learn anything if you just stick to this little group. Because that's more to that. There are little parcels in the community, in the society, that makes a big group. So you have to go around and explore all of them. Like Fobete says, go out, volunteer. Don't be just be always attending your own community events. Go out and do something more. And even if you don't speak the language, but if you try, people appreciate that. People give you the chance. People willing to take you on as a volunteer. And slowly, like, the language learning by doing and participating is so much faster than learning by the book. And language comes very important too. Like Fobete says in interviews, your language is the most important thing. People would like to know if you can communicate with clients, be able to deliver the message. So put emphasis on language learning, be open to learn, be open to explore different things, and be volunteer. And I would say you came here, then you take on the chance. Like, I mean, what's the point of coming all the way from thousands of miles just still living in your own community? I don't see that's very meaningful.
Okay. So, if Subi, you ever have any clients and you looking for places maybe to send them, you have Fobete there. Refer your clients to Fobete now, because both of you are in Calgary. So
Yeah.
that's one way of networking and connecting, right?
Funny enough, because I just moved in November last year, 2020, my clientele is still in Brandon. I feel like I'm living in Brandon, but my living in Calgary, but my soul is in Brandon. So all of my resources are in Brandon base. But I'm slowly tapping into the Calgary this market too, and of course having the connection with Fobete and all of other friends of ours from the program that we graduated. And that's a great advantage we have, and that also creates a little social network, right, to refer and reference each other.
It's funny you say your soul is in Brandon. I actually refer to Brandon as my Canadian hometown, because when I came to Canada, I came straight to Brandon. So whenever I say my Canadian hometown, I just refer to Brandon, because that's where I feel like I grew up. I became very independent. I explored and got to know myself more without my family. So that's interesting. We'll always have that in the back of our heads. Calling Brandon home. It will always be very special, not only to me, yeah, but I bet to so many international students. We have quite a history in Brandon, don't we?
That's right.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice place to start. Small, affordable, and it's just very small net community.
Okay, so as we are about to wrap up, any final comments, any final message, greetings, shout outs you want to send out before we close?
Well, I just want to wish every international student that there is hope. Being an international student, there is hope to become a permanent resident, so to become a Canadian. And Canada, as a country, I'll be very open to attest that is the best country on planet Earth. So, as I know, and there are a lot of opportunities in Canada. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe that you can make it, irrespective of what everybody goes through. Believe in yourself that you can make it, and let the sky be a limit. Aspire for higher things. Try to come out from your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Try to make friends out of your community.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Subi?
Very much the same. I also wanted to say, get out, explore, know more people, connect with more organizations, build up your resume, build up your future one step at a time. It's all up to you because opportunity is right wide open in front of us.
That is very practical and great advice you give. But now, actually, I have a question. Given that we are in the pandemic time, how are they? How are people going to get out and make connection when we are restricted in making that connection, which people need to make? What can they do? Because I know so many things have been affected by COVID. So how can they do it?
I am blown away by the amount of creativity that people have. Like, you can really see what people came up with during this COVID-19. For example, I'm still a volunteer with Red Cross, and we Red Cross still recruits volunteers, and if there's an emergency come up, we respond virtually. You see, there are ways to do that. There are ways to help people, and so if you really want to, if you have this determination to go out and do something, there is always a way. I don't think pandemic, yes, it caused lots of difficulties, but it's never a barrier, never something that stops you.
Okay. How about you, Fobete?
Yes, you realize now that with the pandemic, everything is stressful. So I'm trying to say, get engaged or get busy with some of these virtual conferences. Get there, get contacts of panelists, people who talk, and send them an email. I was really intrigued by your presentation. It falls in line with my career aspiration, blah 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 blah. And I was wondering if we could talk. That is it. Then you start to build that relationship. You try to build that network. So this pandemic has really, if you flip the other side of the coin, it has done a lot. A lot of things have been developed. Everything is is virtual, and there are a lot of things that one can achieve with the pandemic. So we should not blame the pandemic.
No, it's not actually blaming the pandemic, but actually now that made me actually think about something. That is practical advice, but I feel like it can apply to people who know how to navigate actually technology, who can actually do the search and all that. But then you have a few people who don't know how actually to even use Zoom, or even how to do Google searches and stuff like that. They are limited technologically, but also they have language barrier at the same time. So I feel there is still that challenge.
In this day and age, if you really want to learn something, everything is out there. I think, yes, there is a challenge, but if you want to learn, there shouldn't be any excuse. I'm sorry being maybe sounding a bit rough, but I don't think there should be any excuse. Even I believe immigration centers are coming, for example, immigration settlement organizations, Fobete, you may know more. They are even coming up with some virtual assistance of language. Like, I did virtual on the phone language interpretation to people, organizations. There is support out there. So at the end of the day, it comes down to your hard work if you're willing to do the work, because it's going to be difficult. It's going to take your time to learn that language, to master or know how to communicate with others. But you will need that eventually. Like, of course, 100%.
Indeed, and that's what I wanted to touch on. People need to take initiative. They have to reach out if they need something. I know so many people are isolated, not only due to the pandemic, but as a newcomer, they are, scared to reach out to others, which isolates them. They can't access resources and all. So they need to take that one step to reach out, and they will be able to get all the support they need. I am very honored today to have you both as my guests here today on the Migrant Stories Platform Canada. Kish Monda says, very nice discussion among you three. We thank you so much for joining us today. We've had a very interesting discussion on various things, from international students' experiences. We went through transitioning into employment to immigration in Canada. I feel like actually now I've gotten to know you even better than as we were before, and I am honored for this time we've spent together. So I'd like to thank both of you for joining the Migrant Stories Canada today, and let's stay in touch and see, where everything leads us. Maybe one day I'll be in Calgary with the Migrant Stories, and we'll be able to do more things with the project.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll stay in touch. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care. Thanks for having us.